MasalKid.
Once upon a time, in a small village in Italy, there lived a kind-hearted but very lonely woodcarver. His name was Geppetto. Geppetto had no children and no relatives. His only friends were the little fish swimming in his aquarium and his cuckoo clock. One evening, while working in his workshop, he came across a very special piece of cherry wood. Geppetto said, "I will make such a beautiful puppet out of this wood that at least I will have a friend to talk to in the evenings." Geppetto set to work. First, he carved the head, then the body. He noticed something strange. The wood was trembling slightly, as if it were in pain. "I must be dreaming," he muttered. When he painted the puppet's eyes, he felt them looking at him. When he made the nose moved slightly. Geppetto gave him a name, Pinocchio. When he finished the puppet and sat it on the table, he fell asleep from exhaustion. But that night, an unexpected light appeared in the room. A blue fairy emerged with a bright light filtering through the window. She knew what a kind-hearted man Geppetto was. She touched her wand to Pinocchio and said, "Awaken, little puppet. I am giving you life, but if you want to become a real boy, you must be honest, brave, and unselfish." Pinocchio opened his eyes and moved his arms. He was now a puppet without strings, moving on his own. The fairy also gave him a guide, the wise cricket. He would tell him what was right and what was wrong. When the sun rose, Geppetto woke up and couldn't believe his eyes. Pinocchio was jumping around the room, shouting, "Father!" Geppetto was about to cry with joy. "I finally have a real son," he said. Pinocchio needed to go to school like other children. Geppetto had no money, so he sold his own coat and bought an alphabet book for Pinocchio. Pinocchio promised, "I will go to school, I will work very hard, and I will be a son worthy of you." But as soon as he went outside, adventure and danger were waiting for him. Pinocchio set off with the new alphabet book under his arm and the promise to be a good son in his heart. "I will read, I will learn, and I will buy my father the most beautiful coats," he sang. But when he came to a crossroads, two strange characters appeared, a limping fox and a cat pretending to be blind. Actually, both were perfectly healthy, but their goal was to trick the poor puppet. "Where to, my little friend?" said the fox smoothly. "I'm going to school," Pinocchio said proudly. "School? You'll only get bored at school. Look at that big tent over there. That is the great puppet theater. There are gold coins, candies, and endless fun there." Pinocchio was confused. The cricket immediately landed on his shoulder and whispered, "Don't listen to them, Pinocchio. Remember the promise you made to your father." But Pinocchio was already caught up in the excitement. Instead of going to school, he sold the alphabet book Geppetto had bought with great difficulty and bought a ticket to the theater. Things did not go as expected at the theater. The owner of the theater, the massive, bushy-bearded fire-eater, saw Pinocchio and locked him up with the other puppets. While Pinocchio was crying there, he realized what a big mistake he had made. Fortunately, Fire-Eater was not as bad as he looked. He took pity on Pinocchio's story and gave him 5 gold coins so he could return home to his father. On the way, the blue fairy appeared again. She asked Pinocchio in a soft voice, "What happened to your coins and your book, Pinocchio?" Pinocchio was ashamed. He couldn't tell the truth. "I forgot my book at school, and I dropped my coins on the road," he said. At that moment, a strange thing happened. Pinocchio's nose suddenly grew with a snap. He told another lie, and his nose grew a little more. It grew so long that he couldn't even turn his head inside the room. Pinocchio cried and apologized. The fairy smiled at him. "Lies are of two kinds, Pinocchio. Yours is the kind with the long nose." After the fairy's forgiveness, Pinocchio set off to return home, but this time he met his school friend Candlewick. Candlewick asked, "Where are you going in such a hurry?" "I'm going to the most beautiful place in the world, the land of toys. There is no school, no teachers, only games and fun. We're setting off with a carriage full of children. You should come too." Pinocchio said no at first, but when he heard the sounds of fun, he couldn't resist. Geppetto was left alone at home again. When they arrived at the land of toys, everything was like a dream. Everywhere was filled with candies, toys, and amusement parks. Children played games from morning till night, and no one told them to study. Pinocchio just had fun for days. But this country had a very dark secret. The evil-hearted coachman who ran the place was trapping lazy children who didn't want to work. As time passed, strange changes began to occur in Pinocchio and Candlewick. One morning, when Pinocchio woke up, he noticed that his ears had grown incredibly long. "Oh my God, what's happening?" he shouted. But the sound coming from his mouth was not a child's voice. It was a donkey's bray. His friend Candlewick had also turned into a donkey. It turned out that in this country, children who were too lazy eventually turned into donkeys and were sold by the coachman to be worked in heavy labor. Pinocchio began to run away before he fully turned into a donkey. He ran towards the sea in regret. Just then, he received a painful news from a seagull. Geppetto had set out to sea in a small boat to look for his son and had been swallowed by a giant whale. Pinocchio said, "I must save my father," and threw himself into the rough waves. He was no longer that old spoiled puppet. His heart was full of loyalty and courage. "Father! Father, Geppetto!" he shouted. Suddenly, the sea darkened. He thought a giant mountain had risen above the water, but this was not a mountain. It was a giant whale. The whale opened its massive mouth and swallowed Pinocchio in one gulp along with tons of water. The whale's belly was dark, damp, and filled with old shipwrecks. Pinocchio saw a weak flickering light in the distance. He ran towards it and couldn't believe what he saw. Geppetto was sitting in a sinking boat holding a small candle. "Father!" Pinocchio cried. Geppetto couldn't believe his eyes at first. Then he hugged his son. "Pinocchio, I thought I would never see you again," the old man said with tears in his eyes. But time was short. The whale was sleeping, and they had to get out before it woke up. Pinocchio was no longer that old foolish puppet. His heart was full of loyalty and courage. "Father, we must light a big fire in the whale's belly. The smoke will bother him and make him sneeze. At that moment, we can fly out." Together with Geppetto, they gathered old pieces of wood and lit a huge fire. Smoke filled everywhere. The whale began to get unrestless, and finally it let out such a achoo that Pinocchio and Geppetto found themselves in the middle of the ocean. Pinocchio took his old and tired father on his back and swam to the shore. At that moment, the blue fairy appeared again. "Well done, Pinocchio. You have finally learned to think of others more than yourself. You have proven your courage and honesty." The moment the fairy touched her wand, Pinocchio's wooden arms softened, his joints closed, and he took on the warmth of a real child. And he promised himself that he would never tell a lie again.